Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel.
Hope you have a wonderful day. In today's video, we're going to talk about how much should you spend when it comes to rent.
Or any house, like a mortgage or
Mortgage
or it's,
repayment or
yeah,
rent, more like accommodation.
because in recently in Australia there's like this housing crisis,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of rent going up, house pricing going up, more um, immigrants coming to Australia, so pushing the house prices going really crazy.
On top of that, when you first started, like when I first my journey
Mm,
being an adult, renting
mhm.
outside of mom and dad's home, how much should you really spend in order for you to build your wealth?
Yeah.
I mean, accommodation is one of those things that you cannot avoid. You kind of need to do that.
Yes. Well, it triggered me because a few days ago I was reading a news. There's a single mom. She has two kids. Her
Mhm.
rent, she's paying 80% of her income into rent because rent's been going up because
Yep.
of what happened here, and then she doesn't move out of the area because of kids' school. I understand as
Yeah.
a parent, you
But
don't want
there's
your kids
yeah.
to keep moving.
The main part is that I think it's because once you're there, you want to have that. I guess the lifestyle is
Mm,
established for the children.
yeah.
This was one of the reasons why we moved here
Mm,
in the first place. So we
yes.
moved from from
Sydney.
Sydney to Brisbane.
Yeah.
In expectation, we'll be staying here for the longest term um, to avoid, I guess, that lifestyle creep as well.
Yes, because we feel like in Sydney is just getting so expensive. So
Yeah.
even we can afford it, we feel it's challenging for our kids.
Hmm.
And there's not enough space for our growing family.
Yeah.
Mm.
So from that alone,
Mm.
we realized, go, hang on a second, this might be related for anyone out there who's starting their journey.
Mm.
When I first started going back when I think it's about 17, 18 years old,
Mm.
in the beginning of it, I started up renting a property with, what is it, with one bedroom,
Mm.
but
Yep.
split it.
Yep. How
Being
do you split?
18, so
Someone
one
in
person living
living?
in the living room, the
Yep.
other person living in the bedroom
Yep.
with shared bathroom.
Yep.
But then again, to guys like, hey, it's not a big deal
No.
because hey,
You're
the
single.
both of us were single.
Mm.
We didn't have a lot of, I guess, our income was low because
And you don't have much anyway
yeah,
in the house. It's
typical
just,
bachelor's pad.
yeah. So, how much do you think? How much did you spend, the percentage
Oh,
wise?
I think it was like about a third. My income was like very low back then, but that was
Mm.
like
Still a third.
a
Back then,
third.
the rent is cheap too. It was
Yeah,
cheap.
the income was low, the rent was cheap, everything was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. So, based on all other research we've done,
Hmm.
recommendation for rent is 30% of your income.
So the first part would be getting a housemate.
Well,
If you can, like
yeah.
30% of your income, if you can do it by itself.
Yeah.
However, there's a certain, I guess, gimmick,
Mm.
bits and pieces that that I did it myself throughout my journey, in order to keep the cost down. I mean,
Hmm.
30% would be ideal. Lower than 30% would be even better.
It's hard in Australia unless you don't live in big city. I assure you, if you don't live in big city, you can achieve that. But if you live in big city, let's say like where we used to live, like even
Yeah,
around here, 1,000 minimum a week.
it all
So,
it all I guess depending, yeah, if your
mm,
income high,
yep.
like let's say what's that, $300 per week rental, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
really high, it
Mm,
might be cheap.
yep.
But if your income is only very little,
Mm-hmm.
$300,
Yep.
it's very expensive.
Yep.
So yeah, it all relatives, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So what were we saying before I interrupt?
I can't remember.
So one of the I guess we're doing certain different things in terms of key points on how to
Mm,
spend less on
okay.
accommodation.
Yep.
So the first one would be getting a housemate. That's
Yeah.
definitely a go.
No, I'll say first is to realize you cannot afford that rent. You cannot afford that area.
Yeah.
Then you have to move or move somewhere else.
If you don't have any kids, it makes it easier,
Yeah.
because obviously with children you have to take in consideration of
Mm.
where they go to school,
Yep.
the area,
Yep.
and who they're going to be hanging out with, and you don't want to have the children to move too many times? let's say?
Yes. Yeah. The news I was reading, the mom were moving like 8 times in a year.
It would be really
Yeah.
stressful.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was stressful
Yeah.
enough for a single person, let's say.
And every time when you move is a lot of money too. You gotta spend a lot on
Yeah.
removal list, time, and adjusting to your new place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The next one will be negotiating if
Mm.
you're signing up a new lease for a longer term.
Mm-hmm.
I did that when I was looking for an apartment at one stage, single life back then. I pretty much laid out there, listen, I'm willing to do a 2-year lease
Yep.
with a 6 months upfront. That's another option if you can do that, but don't use a credit card to get that.
Yeah, because I heard a lot of people, they actually secure that rental for paying 6 months upfront. Of course, not everyone can do it, but I heard it that dramatic. They pay upfront in cash to lock it in that contract.
One of our friends have a granny flat in the back. They did the same thing. They put an advertisement, hey, this is how much it is. And some people do that. And obviously as an owner, like that will help in terms of their mortgage for the first 6 months or something.
Yeah, and also
that would help. It might be the owner have some sort of cash flow issue. It might help them a little bit more as well.
And also is you don't have to worry if they're going to miss a payment. So for the first 6 months as owner, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And then the other one that we did was renting at the car space.
Yes. So for where we used to live in Sydney, it was a 3-bedroom apartment, and then we had 2 cars, and we were being very savvy.
Yeah, we actually we rented both at one stage.
Did we?
Yeah, both of our cars actually outside. So where we were living was somewhat close to the airport, close to the city.
Yep.
There was a certain aspect of it where people going international flight.
Yep.
And they want to stay there maybe for a short term, call it a week, 2 weeks. So I rented out like that.
Yeah.
In a secured location underground, and it was a tandem parking, so their kites always be
at the back.
So the other one would be there's a person renting an apartment across the road or within about within a block away from where we are, and they don't have a car space.
Oh.
So because of that, they wanted to have a very secure parking lot.
Yep.
Yeah, and she used it for a daily commute to and from work. And I'm like, okay, my car is not that fancy, so I don't mind.
Put it outside.
Put it outside.
Yeah, because it was renting pretty well.
Yeah, because depending where you are, because where we were, it was a meter parking, let's say. So it was I think
4 hour
a maximum.
The council was city
City
of
Sydney
Sydney
Council.
So remember, if it's raining, I want to drive to the swimming pool, it's $6 an hour.
So parking can be really hefty, let's say. And I remember when we were renting it out like this, it's like, okay, then at about 3 hours, you have to move it somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. No, back then it was nothing. And then
they put down
6 o'clock behind. I can't remember, 4 hours or 8 hours, and then change it down to 4, and then change it to 2. Because there's just getting more and more people.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the other thing.
But then rent then where we used to live around the area, it was like $600, let's say, at the beginning. And then when we moved out last year, it went up to $1,200.
Yep.
A week.
And now it's getting higher.
And
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So we're using the 30% rule because statistically shown, well, a study has shown, research has shown, is like it minimizes it minimizes the stress for yourself.
Yep. So I would say for now, maybe maximum 50%. You're stretching, right?
Yeah.
You're stretching, even it's 50%, because when people say they're renting the area and then I don't know how much their income is, like you said, are they really stretching? Because statistically saying 30% is ideal.
Yep.
You don't have to maximize that 30%. Anything lower is good.
It's even better.
Yes, because you will put, for us, we put aside 50 to 60% for house, transportation, food, anything essential.
Utilities.
Yes.
So that's like 30% of the rent, and then you've got your internet, your water, your council. For us, it's a council. So maybe the internet, the phone, the electricity,
Yeah.
the water. Those
Yeah.
are the main part, and
Yeah.
then that would probably going to cost you roughly another 30%. So,
and anything rest is we save it for emergency or we save it for investment.
so that's the other like sort of 30-40-ish% because it varies between week to weeks.
So I cannot imagine people if they're paying like over 50% for the rent, how to survive.
More like you're not getting ahead for yourself.
No.
Because you'll be just going in a rat race, let's say. In fact, you're probably going to go backward. Let's say in the next year, if your income doesn't go up, I'm sure the rent is probably going to go up.
Correct.
So if you start with 50%, it's just going to go higher and higher if your job don't get any pay rise, let's say. So whereas if you have 30%, you probably can be like 25%, let's say. If you're up increases, but your income doesn't increase, you should be able to cover that a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's just our 2 cents, guys, based on my personal experience.
Yeah, about housing expenses.
And then if you do have a mortgage, how does that work?
Oh, so similar, still 30%.
Still 30% is part of your mortgage repayment.
But currently everyone is just over the limit.
It's a bit hard to do. I mean, it is out of, like, it's not your day-to-day thing. Because what I've seen is like, okay, take the 30-year mortgage, interest only, pay the bare minimum. For us, is the other way around. Get the shortest mortgage, pay it off as quickly as possible, and be frugal as much as you can without going, without being stressful. So, but at the end of that, you're rewarding yourself at like
earlier retirement for option.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of like that stress side of it. It minimizes that.
Yeah.
So if you like this type of content, guys, don't forget to subscribe, comment.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.